Welcome back to the Standing Room Only podcast, episode 99. One away from triple digits. Don't have an exciting 100th episode planned at the moment. It's going to be around Thanksgiving. We'll have special guests in the future, though. We have some stuff to talk about today. The Bulls continuing to play well on their West Coast road trip. The MLB awards have been announced for the most part. We don't know the MVPs, but we technically do based off the season. Some of the guys have had. And then NFL talk. The Rams kind of falling apart. The Green Bay having a big week. Odell signing. As always, you can follow us on social media at SROnlyPod. You were following our previous Twitter. I did change I deleted that old account we have. We have a brand new one. Follow it. We're posting a bunch of stuff on there. You can follow our personal pages. Mine is at the Healy6.
And of course, I'm iGoose with 4 O's. Go ahead, hit that follow button. We got an episode for you guys today. I think Healy said it. Are we starting with the Bulls right away, or are we gonna wait on that one?
We'll start off with the Bulls.
I think we should get right into it. The Bulls are hot. The Bulls are who we thought they were, but social media I guess the media, I don't want to call it social media, but the media is talking about surprise teams coming out of the East, the surprise top 4 team, the worst signing of Demar Derozan because he doesn't pair well with Zach LaVine. Well, they got another thing coming because this team is hot and they are unstoppable. No pun intended.
This was supposed to be a tough stretch for them, especially going on the West Coast, playing some tough teams. And they've looked great. Their only loss so far is to the Golden State Warriors, and they just simply got outplayed. Vucevic or not, been out this whole time. The Warriors are amazing this year, and they don't even have Klay Thompson. The 3 teams that have a top 10 offense and top 10 defense in the league, Golden State, the Bulls, and the Heat. Like, Golden State is back, and going back to my preseason predictions, I think I made them like a 5th or 4th seed. That might be too low at the end of the day. We'll just have to wait and see. But the Bulls, they went into LA, won 2 games. They forced them to change the name of the Staples Center. It's now going to be the Crypto.com Arena starting Christmas Day. DeMar DeRozan, what a signing. He's averaging like
DeMar DeRozan
30 points.
Yeah, on this West Coast trip, this what we would normally call the circus trip, but we don't have the circus anymore in Chicago, so it's just the West Coast trip, has been hot. And I'm talking on both sides of the floor. You have a guy who is lethal with the mid-range. Against the Lakers, and I know Anthony Davis got ejected, but to be honest, the Bulls were manhandling them as it was. He had a mid-range jumper turnaround over Anthony Davis, which is one of the hardest guys to spot up and shoot on, considering his length, his physical stature, his vertical, his ability to block shots like he's done his whole career from probably middle school through the pros. And DeRozan scored at ease. As of right now, he has back-to-back 35-point games, 35 against the Clippers, 38 against the Lakers. Very efficient shooting. The first game against LA, the Clippers, 12 of 16. 1 of 1 from downtown. He doesn't shoot the 3 ball very often. Second game, 38 points on 15 of 23. Well over 50%. That's, my math is right, that's over 60%. Or just about. Nailed 2 threes in that game, 2 for 5. Everything you could ask for. And now it's almost looking like a steal in free agency. I knew he would be good. We all knew that he had the potential. It's just everything gets quiet when you go play for Popovich. And realistically, that wasn't a team that really competed much. And when they did, it was because of DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan was a guy that led his Toronto Raptors team along with Kyle Lowry to many playoff runs, not Eastern Conference Finals every time, but a couple Eastern Conference Finals where they only lost to LeBron James. That's how good LeBron James really is. And the fact that these guys are not only have the chemistry, but and how much fun they're having, but the fact that Levine's putting up numbers. The fact that we're having games where Lonzo's putting up numbers. Lonzo in his last game scored like 26 points or 27 points and doesn't miss from downtown. He missed at the end of the game on shots that really he didn't really need to take, but man, why not? Heat check, right? The Bulls are not to be played around with. For me, I'm very critical of my teams. I'm very critical of the Bulls, especially coming out of the East, where there are a few teams that have dominated the last couple years. Milwaukee, Miami's been hot. Last year had a weird season. Boston's always been good. But I am convinced that the Bulls right now, especially going into Portland tonight, being an underdog by 3.5 points, you can catch me with that spread. They need respect. They need to be treated as a top 3 team, despite the fact that they did lose 2 games to Philadelphia. Only because Joel Embiid really does have our number, and big guys we will struggle with. We're probably going to struggle with Nurkic tonight a little bit, but I do think that the Bulls are clicking sooner than what I expected. A lot sooner than what I expected.
I am mad that they did not. I'm still mad that the Bulls did not split that series with Philly. They still have another game against them at least, but I'm still mad that they went 0-2 against them, especially against a depleted Sixers team that only had Embiid the most part.
Yeah, they were without Tobias Harris, who in his first game back, after his little stretch of missing games, he ended up, because Embiid was out for, I believe it was COVID protocol and might still be. So Tobias Harris had to be the scorer. And in the first half of his first game back, dropped almost 20 points in the first half. He ended up putting up like 30 points. And I'm thinking like, wow, they were without, and Tobias Harris to me is good. I like Tobias Harris. Now, does he get paid an extremely amount of money to maybe not have that takeover ability? Yes, but also he kind of has no choice but to take the back seat a lot of times because of Joel Embiid and company. So I'll be okay with those losses because to me, with how they've rebounded, tells me they want to where they left. Okay, next time they'll go out, then I'm sure they'll play Philadelphia different. But they've come back around and they're on a winning streak. They're on this West Coast trip. Everything looks good. They're winning on the road, which is key. It's key. Why? Because the Madhouse, we truly do get a home court advantage. So I expect them to win at home. It's the road games that are going to be key, especially in the West Coast.
Yeah, and come playoff seeding time, it's only going to be separated by a couple games here and there. The Hawks,
Yeah.
they appear to be bad. Guess what? They went on a West Coast trip and they went 0-6. They come back home, they get a win. So the Bulls taking advantage of that. They still have a few games left. The tough one is going to be without Vucevic against the Nuggets in Denver. But as long as they can win against Portland here, and then that's good enough for me. If they lose against Nuggets, okay, that's fine. We get Vooch back, we're all good. Lonzo Ball shooting a career high 44% from 3. Great.
Year over year, he improves year over year.
And his free throw percentage too.
And his playmaking ability, he's always had the playmaking ability. But we're seeing at least I don't remember what game it was, if it was the Clippers game, where he tossed that long pass down court and Zach LaVine threw down the 360 dunk at the end of the game and got teed up. That pass was, and I can't remember if that was Dallas. Was that against Dallas?
That was Dallas. It was at home.
That was a few games ago, but just like he just, oh yeah, because they might have had Vooch at the time.
They did.
I could be wrong. Because he was he grabbed it off the court. But Lonzo is a blessing in disguise. And I know a lot of people were like, is he really worth the money? Like, the Pelicans didn't win, and they have a bunch of talent. he really didn't make much of a difference. But my thing is, he's so young and his basketball IQ is through the roof. And the fact that he's improving year over year and you get the right coach, such as Billy Donovan, Mo Cheeks, all, the assistants, the fact that they're improving and they've improved so far throughout this early on in the season, as a Bulls fan, I'm all in. I'm all in.
It was hilarious the past 2 games against the Clippers and the Lakers. I need to check out the starting lineup tonight. But Alex Caruso technically started at the power forward position.
Isn't he incredible? That dude, he had 9 rebounds in one of those games.
Offensively, his passing could use a little work. Caruso's starting at the 4 again tonight. But he is just a spark plug to the defense and offense. He can drive. He's going to be there for the steal. He's just in the right spot at the right time, and the players feed off his energy.
You love to have him on your team. You hate to play against him. My favorite thing was when the reporters asked Anthony Davis regarding Alex Caruso coming back home, and his response was like, "Who? I don't know who that is." And he started laughing as a joke because obviously Alex Caruso was starting in some critical games in the finals a couple years ago for them.
Yeah.
So that was I mean, for him to go back home, Demar Derozan, it was a homecoming playing in LA. The fact that they're playing well without Vucevic, playing undersized, to me says a lot because Vuce, like we said, is knocking the rust off. He is in all-star league a while. He's adjusting to some new players. I mean, for Vuce, you got to think about it like this. He's played with 3 separate teams within the last year. He played with Orlando, he played with the old-look Bulls, and he's got to play with the new-look Bulls. He's got a lot of adjusting. But let me tell you, when he gets it going, this team is scary. We don't have a big 3, we have a big 4, and we will compete day in and day out. The only teams I'm really worried about are the guys that really have that takeover ability, like Giannis, or maybe Miami with Jimmy, who can potentially drop 40 in one night, or he might go off and you might only he might not give up any points. He might have 8 steals in a game randomly. So there are some teams that I'm still worried about, but I do believe that the Bulls have the ability to compete in a series, night in, night out, with any team in the NBA.
Love talking about it. It's
been
great since we've
soon again.
It's been great since we started this podcast. They've just been so bad, and now that we could talk about them in a positive notion every single podcast, it's great.
Yeah, it's fun is what it is. We don't get this, guys. We're from Chicago. If you didn't know, he's got all the Cubs stuff. I got the Bulls hat. Usually I have a Sox hat. Being from Chicago's tough. Now, luckily, I was raised a Green Bay Packer fan, and Bears fans actually are okay with it now, but they still kind of bust my balls a little bit. But as a Chicago fan, it is tough because once in a while they'll make a big move, they'll make a splash, and it's just like it doesn't pan out. We have we've dealt with the Derrick Roses, we've dealt with even Chicago had the Jay Cutler, who almost led them to a Super Bowl one year if it wasn't for Green Bay. And Chicago goes in spurts of these big runs, these different teams, but there's always heartbreak involved with Chicago and headaches more than anything. With the Bulls, for me, no heartbreaks minus the Derrick Rose injury, their loss in the playoffs to Miami during that run. But it's more headaches than anything being a Bulls fan because of the clowns that led the team, the franchise. And now it's like a relief. It's like when you have the headache that just doesn't go away for days and days, and you're just like, wow, it's finally gone. This is it, Bulls fans. We have a lot to be excited about.
Especially going into these tough games, it would be like, oh no, here we go. Tough games. I was kind of like that early on. I was like, oh, they're going on a road trip to the West Coast. They started out 4-0. They were like 6-2. Are they gonna come out of this road trip being like 7-7? I don't know the math, but basically they're gonna be 500 out this. No, they are not. Every game's like, yeah, we can do this. They can come out with the dub.
I'm looking forward to tonight's game because for Zach LaVine, this is going to be a revenge game. I remember they played them last year, and Dame had a game winner, and Zach LaVine had a hell of a game. But that was the team that we couldn't close games. We had no fourth quarter at all for whatever reason. We'd have guys play quarters 1 through 3, but fourth quarters we'd always blow. And tonight, tonight's going to be a big game for them.
Kobe White came back as well against the
Kobe White did
Lakers.
come back. Yep.
Not big man help, but he did come back, and he was kind of missed because there was some points where DeRozan and Levine would be off the floor. It'd be like Caruso, Lonzo. It'd be like Green, Derrick Jones Jr., Tony Bradley. It'd be like, where's the scoring? It would just kind of get stagnant. Kobe White can fill in that hole because he's a scorer.
Punches and bunches with Kobe White. He's the type of guy that can dribble down the court, pull up three, probably put up. That's the type of guy that you want, especially down in a stretch where the guys do need rest. Because DeMar DeRozan and Levine, and even Lonzo, they've all been playing big minutes. They've all been playing 35 plus minutes, which, yeah, these guys are conditioned for it. But after a while, it does take a toll. So these late game stretches, having Kobe White being a threat downtown, it helps because you don't want to put pressure on Caruso. You don't want to put pressure on Derrick Jones, which I actually think Derrick Jones Jr. is playing very well, stepping into that big man role. And yeah, Kobe White, we'll see what he does moving forward. He's still, I think he's got a lot of rust to knock off.
Oh, no doubt. He hasn't really done much. He came back and they sent him to like the Windy City Bulls, and he was there for like what seemed like only a couple days. Did he even play a game with them, or was he just there practicing?
He's probably just there to practice. I don't even know if he played a game, but I know he only played limited minutes against the Lakers, which is expected. I don't expect him to really get going 15, 20 minutes for at least a couple of games until he gets in the swing of things.
Okay. Other big news as of late with basketball. I just want to talk about Giannis dropping 47 on the Lakers tonight.
Yep.
Huge.
Giannis went off. Giannis is good.
Yes. He's the Greek freak. And also, the Knicks, they just are getting clowned every time a team beats them. They just tweet out Beanbon because of that hype video early on.
That's actually hilarious.
They have a lot of work to
do. Orlando, they're a very good basketball team, but they have like weird. They'll get it going. They obviously need some big names there, but they have all
repeat
these
what
young
you
guys.
said from the beginning.
So
Repeat.
Orlando.
Okay, yes. You kind of lagged for a second.
Okay, Orlando is a weird team. They're not good in the standings, but they have a team that really, like, if they get clicking and maybe add a piece down the road, they could be a good team. Mo Bamba, the fact that he can shoot the long ball occasionally, he will get you 10 to 12 rebounds because he should. They still have Wendell Carter. I like Wagner's pretty good. He's had some good games, at least for me, for FanDuel, for fantasy purposes, for single day. Cole Anthony's great. His interviews are excellent. Bench is a little weak, I'm not going to lie. And when I mention Wagner, I'm talking about Franz Wagner out of Michigan. So I actually like Orlando. And the fact that they did beat the Knicks just kind of solidifies everything I said on Twitter. So shout out to the Knicks fans who listen to our podcast. I do apologize, and I probably should have apologized in advance, but I kind of told you that your Knicks team isn't that good. So now that the East actually has players and talent, you're seeing what the Knicks are about. Randall's numbers are down. Yeah, he's averaging maybe a double-double a game. Tonight, 4 of 11, 13 points. I actually am a believer in Julius Randle. I think he is one of the best in the game, but his numbers are down, just to point that out. Kemba's not doing anything. The Knicks are not who you thought they were. I just wanted to point that out because I did get a lot of heat on Twitter for when I laughed when they signed Kemba like he was the savior. So I just wanted to point that out.
Is Kemba like washed? Is that a good discussion?
I don't
Is he
think
washed?
here's the thing.
Or is he just not in the right system?
I think Kemba Walker has a potential to. He's not old. He's not old. How old is Kemba? He's 28, 29. Is he even 30 yet? He's born 90. So he's okay.
It's 31.
31. 31 now. But that's not old. That's not old. And he's a guard. The problem with the Knicks is there's games where Derrick Rose plays the minutes. Kemba takes the back seat. There's games where Kemba plays the minutes. Derrick Rose takes the back seat. They have a lot of shooters on the team. They have guys that like to shoot. Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, who was 0 for 7 tonight. Evan Fournier, who we know is a pretty good three-point shooter. Those guys, Kemba's not allowed to really thrive in the system, but I still believe that Kemba Walker does have takeover capabilities. I mean, there was a game where he dropped 26 points in third. Had 1-2. I'm seeing 2 20-point games. He's scored over 15 points a few times, but when you look at his minutes, how staggered they are, he'll go from 29, 30, 28 minutes to a 15-minute game to an 18-minute game where you're like, okay, Derrick Rose is getting the time. So, yes, I do believe that maybe Tom Thibodeau's doing it for matchup purposes, but you don't have that consistency that you get from every other team. The Bucks will always run Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Pat Connaughton, or whoever else they want to throw at the 3. And Giannis. Giannis is always in there. So most teams have that set line, set minutes. It's like playing NBA 2K. You set the meter for your simulations. You know who's getting what minutes. A lot of the good teams have that. The Knicks, they don't really have that too much. But I do think that the Knicks are very talented. And I was kind of trash talking. But I do think that the Knicks do have the potential. Simply because of who's on that team. Their bench is okay, but the starting 5 at any given moment could compete with a lot of teams.
Okay. Besides that,
I was gonna say the Nets are still good.
Yeah, they're good. They aren't as dominant as they should be, but they had Steph Curry MVP chance on their home court yesterday.
There's nothing they could do about that. And you know what? I think we talked about it too. It was only a matter of time before James Harden kind of realized, okay, I got to be, because as much as you want to believe Kevin Durant can do it by himself, the scoring, the efficient scoring, rebounding, playing a little bit of defense here and there, we knew James Harden had to get it going. And I mean, last 2 games, he's averaging just over 25 a game. He's shooting very efficiently. He's getting back to the free throw line, which is good. And he's, near triple-double the last couple games. So I think if James Harden can stay consistent and continue to be efficient offensively, this team's definitely going to be a top 3 for sure. There's not even a question.
Okay. You want to move over to baseball or football next?
Let's get these awards out of the way. I want to hear, I don't even know all of the awards, and I know that the MVP is probably coming out relatively soon, as in this week. But I want you to steal the floor on this one.
Okay. So the awards have been announced. We've had the Manager of the Year, the Rookie of the Year, Cy Youngs. We've had Silver Sluggers and Gold Gloves. Not going to talk about those. But Manager of the Year, National League, well-deserved Gabe Kapler for the Giants. I don't know how I still can't believe the Giants won 107 games. And they finished first in Major League Baseball in wins. The American League, this one was a little bit of a toss-up. Kevin Cash got it for the Tampa Bay Rays. They won 100 games. A lot of people were a little surprised at this. And I was surprised it wasn't as close as it should have been. But Scott Servais of the Mariners probably should have won. They were only projected to win like 70 games or so, and they won 90 and were just like one game out to play.
Yeah, they had a hell of a season.
Went to Kevin Cash instead. Rookie of the Year. 2 no-brain selections. Jonathan India. He was a monster this year. Randy Arozarena. Rookie of the Year after having that amazing 2020 postseason.
I forgot he's technically in his rookie season. That's incredible.
Yeah. And then today, a couple toss-ups. Could have went either way with both the NL and AL Cy Young. Robbie Ray won by a landslide in the American League. I thought Garrett Cole got 1 first place vote. I thought he would at least get a couple more in there. But he didn't. Robbie Ray. And then Corbin Burnes won the National League Cy Young Award. He won with 151 points. Zach Wheeler had 141 points. The deciding factor, they both had 12 first place votes. Corbin Burnes had 14 second place votes, and Zach Wheeler had 9. So
wow,
that was the deciding factor. Zach Wheeler had he had more innings pitched and more strikeouts because of that by like a lot, like maybe like 50 innings or so. But Corbin Burnes led in ERA, strikeout rate, strikeout to walk, FIP, barrel rate. He only pitched like 150 innings or so, like 160. So it was close. You could have picked either or. Did you want to go with the durable guy who pitched all year and still put in fantastic work, or the guy who just dominated whenever he stepped foot? Corbin Burnes got that. And then tomorrow we have the MVP awards. Ohtani's going to win it for the American League, no doubt. And then Bryce Harper's most likely going to take it for the National League just because he led in a bunch of different categories. Juan Soto only had he had some defense on Harper, and he had the on base. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think if there was an overall MVP, it would definitely go to Shohei, like of the whole league. Yeah, dude's incredible, and you're a little premature with it, but you predicted it last year too that he would end up winning. Obviously, that wasn't your prediction this year, but dude's incredible.
Yeah, I picked it in the 60-game season because of how much of an impact he would make. And in that small sample size, he would just be more valuable. I didn't think he could do it over a full 162 like how he did, where he put up 40-something home runs, had like a 3.3 ERA. Ridiculous. And he did it the whole year.
Yeah, he's nuts. He's nuts. The dingers he would hit. It's crazy how he would literally go pitch 7 innings, might give up a run or two, strike out 7 guys. Very next day, hits 2 home runs like it's nothing. Or the rest of the week before he pitches again, he has 5 more home runs. He had a huge stretch, I think around, I don't know if it was leading up to the All-Star break, but he had a huge stretch where it was like 3 games in a row he was hitting home runs, and everything was monster shots. I mean, most of the stuff he hits is monster shots because of his swing. But yeah, that's he's an awesome athlete.
It was definitely up to the All-Star break.
Shout out to Bryce Harper too.
Because after the All-Star break, he kind of slowed down a little bit. That's the awards. We have seen some free agent signings, though. December 1st is when a lockout's most likely going to happen. We're seeing signings happen now. Players want to lock in this guaranteed money. They don't know what's going to happen, so they're getting paid. Eduardo Rodriguez goes from Boston to Detroit. He signed a 5-year, $77 million deal, 15 a year. He's 28 years old, be around 29 when the season starts. He's a solid piece to start this next run for the Tigers. He's not going to be their ace, but he will be a solid innings thrower. And also the way he plays and his numbers favor him pitching in a ballpark like Comerica. So that'll help out. Justin Verlander signed today. The source was Ben Verlander, his brother. I don't know how much we could trust that, but Ben said Justin Verlander signed. He signed a 1-year deal with the Houston Astros. Didn't move. Kind of lackluster there. Bunch of people thought he was going to sign somewhere else. People liked the change. But he's going back to Houston for 1 more year to try to get it going, to get one last championship there. 1 year, $25 million. He also does have an option, though. So this could technically be a 2-year deal for $50 million total. Just came off of Tommy John. He's going to be 39 when the season starts. 25 a year at 39. Kind of ridiculous.
Good. Yeah.
He's
good, he got better with age.
What caught more flack for this next one, Noah Syndergaard. He got offered the qualifying offer. It's $18.4 million for anyone wanting to know. Noah did not sign it at all, and he went and signed with the Los Angeles Angels for $21 million. We got a few extra million there, and a bunch of people were like complaining. Same thing, Tommy John came off of it, but he's 29 years of age. And people were more like excited for Verlander to sign, and they bashed Noah signing for 21 mil. It's only a 1-year deal. So 1-year deals, you can't really go wrong. If you waste the money, okay, cool. You aren't on the team next year. That's big because Los Angeles has needed pitching. Been their struggle
for a while. For a long while.
It's been their struggle for like the past decade.
I just want to see Trout compete in the playoffs. That's it. Just for
Trout
a couple
and Ohtani
seasons in the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, right now is the time to do it. I mean, they got literally, arguably, some of the most talented baseball players in the history, and I'm calling Shohei in the history because of what he's able to do. So the fact that Noah Syndergaard did go there on that deal, and we know Noah has been able to pitch lights out in the past, and Tommy John, guys recover and they throw their velocities better than what it was before. I think Noah Syndergaard with the run support, I think he'll end up being okay.
Yeah, he should be solid, especially because it's been a couple years since he's like actually thrown. He's been kind of hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Brandon Belt signed the qualifying offer, $18 million. I think it's smart. He signed back with the Giants. He's going to give it one last hoorah with the San Francisco Giants. And maybe he even signs long-term in the future, but $18 million, I don't know if he was worth $18 million. He had a fantastic year. He's getting up there in age, and he would have got less per year. So good for him. Andrew Heaney, we know of. Manny Pena went to Atlanta. He's going to be a nice, solid backup catcher for them. Maybe even starts for them here and there. And that's basically it for now. We might see Matt Olson get traded here shortly. Next episode, we might see Carlos Correa signing. Expect some big moves to happen in these next couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's it, though, for baseball.
Should we roll over to the NFL?
Yeah.
The National Football League?
Let's finish it off.
Where do we start? Let's start. I got one we can start with. He's back. Cam Newton re-signs a deal with the Carolina Panthers. He gets in the game. He doesn't start, but he gets 2 quarterback option draws, whatever you want to call it. At the goal line, scores 2 touchdowns in his first game back with Carolina, gets in front of the camera, and he lets everybody know he's back. Cam Newton is a hell of an athlete. I know as a quarterback, for fantasy purposes, even for winning games nowadays, he really isn't that guy. But there is something about him succeeding that I love to see. I think it's because he's always kept his head down. Yeah, social media, he doesn't necessarily keep his head down. I wouldn't say he's the most humbled, but he's always shown this desire to eat, to constantly eat. And you kind of want that out of an athlete, regardless of him maybe making weird posts here and there. And I wouldn't even say he's the worst. Like, there are some athletes where you're like, what are you doing? But I like Cam Newton. I'm sold. And he's supposedly starting this week. So we'll see that Carolina is a competitive team. Christian McCaffrey's back. The defense is good. Most games. All they really need is a solid quarterback to help lead. Sam Darnold isn't a bad quarterback, and I know he got hurt this season. Let's see if Cam can give them a little run, a little push in that East Coast.
Hey, give us a little bit of a throwback. Did you hear his interview after the game?
I did not.
So they asked him how much of the playbook he knew, and he said 2 touchdowns.
That's actually hilarious. That's the Cam, but that's where you're like, oh, is he that humble? I like it. I like it a lot. And I did say in the East Coast only because it's Carolina. Technically, it's the East, but they are in the South Division with Tampa. It's funny because they are. I don't know when their bye week is. It might be after this upcoming week, but they are 2-0 in the division. Tampa Bay just lost. They're 6-3, and they're right there. They are literally right there in the pack. They can compete for the wild card. There's an extra week in the NFL. I'm gonna keep my eyes on this Carolina team and see what they do because they can definitely compete. They have Washington that they can beat, even though I do think Washington is going to be a tough game for them. They have Miami, and then they have their Week 13 bye before probably one of the toughest schedules to finish the season, where they have Atlanta, Buffalo, Tampa, the Saints, and Tampa again. So we'll see how they weather that storm that's upcoming.
Green Bay, they had a fantastic game against the Seahawks. Russell Wilson's return got spoiled. Shut him out.
Green Bay is proving week in and week out to have that defensive element, that defensive chemistry, that defensive impact, to where it allows the offense to do whatever they want. Jordan Love, I know a lot of people are like, he had a bad game. He did okay. But that defense was able to maintain Patrick Mahomes. That defense shut out the Seahawks for the first time at home in I don't even know how long. With Russell Wilson, I should say, starting. I know it was his first game back in a while. They shut him out. They I and here's the thing with Green Bay. I know AJ Dillon is taking over. Aaron Jones is hurt, but I think AJ Dillon to me has been a more effective running back. Aaron Jones is a great running back. I think he's well deserved of the money. I think he's good, but I think for the purpose of what the Packers are going to be doing, which is grinding down, controlling the clock, I like AJ Dillon moving forward, and I think he's a must start for the next, at least. He's an RB, I would say 2. I'm not going to say maybe a 1, but not an elite 1. But he's a must start in every fantasy league. If he's available, go grab him. If he's available, you probably aren't playing with the right people, but go grab him. But long story short, what I'm getting at is this defense is doing the right things. They shut out Seattle, Kansas City. They were able to maintain Kyler Murray. I know he got hurt at the end of the game, but they were able to win there. They held Washington to 10 points. The only team that really, really thrived against them was week 1, the Saints, because Green Bay just was like in vacation mode. Besides that, Joe Burrow maybe was the only other quarterback that had huge plays against Green Bay. And besides, that's it. The defense is, to me, looking better, even though Jair Alexander is out. Hopefully comes back for the playoffs. They're looking good. It's scary though, because Green Bay's never had a good defense. They've had an okay defense. They've had defenses that would force turnovers. Their 2011 Super Bowl, they had Charles Woodson, they had Clay Matthews who can rush. They had AJ Hawk at the linebacker position in the middle. They had like different pieces, but this defense right now being able to contain the best quarterbacks in the game to slow down the run. This is what Packers fans, what this Packers team needed, especially this season, to try to give a little convincing to Aaron Rodgers, like, are you sure the grass is greener on the other side? My question for you going into this week, now that we've seen the Rams in pretty much back-to-back weeks at this point, they're struggling. Tennessee holds them to 16 points. San Francisco holds them to 10 points. They lose both games. It was tough. They almost lost to Houston 3 weeks ago until they ended up blowing up in like the third and fourth quarter. I should say the first half. And they do have the bye week this week. So the NFC is a toss-up to me. But the Rams do have some good news and bad news as well going on. As we were talking about before the episode, Robert Woods tore his ACL last week, the same day that they went out and grabbed surprise signing Odell Beckham Jr.
The cap is a myth.
Yeah. It's the good thing was he did clear waivers. They were able to structure a contract for him. I'm actually happy for Odell. Seeing him go from Cleveland, where that division's so tight, Cleveland, we don't really know if they're going to compete in the playoffs very well. He gets a fresh start with the Rams, and this is a good chance. Not saying we wish bad on anybody. Robert Woods getting hurt is a blessing for him, because now it's Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, Van Jefferson, I would say, are like their main guys, and Tyler Higbee here and there. So this is a big opportunity for Odell, because the defense should eventually get it going, continue dominating. They obviously grabbed Von Miller recently. I don't know if I can say that 1, 2, and 3. I can't label a 1, 2, 3, but I do know that it's making up of Rams, Packers, Bucks. Even though the Bucks just lost.
You just can't count the Bucks out, especially with the last season they had and knowing they have Tom Brady.
That's the biggest factor. It's not even his statistics are through the roof. This is probably statistically one of his best years since he had Moss in like 04, 05. It's beyond that. It's the fact that when it comes time to it, 9 times out of 10, he's the guy you want leading your team to win must-win games. He's done it every year, day in, day out. Yeah, they're top 3 for sure. Actually, Dallas you can throw up there too. You can argue that. Top 4. Dallas is pretty damn good. That defense is looking a lot better than what we ever thought they would do.
What about the Cardinals? Are they they kind of like this Giants of the NFL, where you're kind of like, they're still off? Like, how are they doing this still?
Yeah.
Or are they legit?
It's hard to say. They were without Kyler Murray the last couple of weeks, and they beat San Francisco. They beat them by 14, but then they came out against Carolina and they only put up 10 points. They lost 10-34. So, assuming Kyler Murray is back, yes, I would put them in that top 4 discussion. They lost to Green Bay with Kyler Murray. So, to me, Green Bay is the better team. It all depends. I mean, injuries are affecting this team. DeAndre Hopkins has been hurt. Kyler Murray's been hurt. J.J. Watt's out for the season now. They still have some good defensive players. They still have a good defense. The offense is still explosive. James Conner's looking awesome on the offensive side. They have the pieces. They do. I can't say, oh, they're not top 4, so they can't compete with the top 4. I think they can easily compete with any team in the NFL, but for where they stand right now, and considering injuries and games that they've lost, such as Green Bay, I would have to say they're 4 or 5. And they still have the Rams again. So that's going to be a true test right there.
It was funny seeing people trash Matt Stafford on Twitter. They're like, oh, he just stat padded against these teams. It's like, what MVP candidate hasn't stat padded against terrible teams? That's how they get their stats to look so good.
That's nuts that they would do. There's a lot of haters, a lot of Matt Stafford haters. I don't get it. Granted, did they play from behind quite a bit when he was in Detroit? Sure. So he's going to put up the numbers, but he did it consistently enough to where you would consider him a top 10 every single year Like, why wouldn't you? Most teams would take him and start him if they needed
Hmm.
it.
Surprising team that I've seen a lot of talk about. The New England Patriots are looking pretty decent this. Mac Jones is fitting into that system very well. He's the only rookie quarterback to have like a QBR of like 100 or more, or like maybe it's not QB, just like a rating 100 or higher, and he's done it in like 5 games. And
He
no other rookie
is.
quarterback has done it. Also, in his interviews recently, he's turned into the Belichick clone. I don't know if Tom Brady was ever like it, but he answers questions very basic.
I like Mac Jones. I know we talked about it. We needed a guy that fits right into the scheme of the Patriots and Belichick, what he likes to do. You need that pocket passer. You need someone with a really good football IQ in there. They don't need the most athletic guy. They don't. Having Cam Newton there was cool, but it's just not a good mix for him. You get Mac Jones, and he's got a good defense. Let's not forget about that. They have one of the best defenses in the league right now. Mac Jones is picture perfect. You let the defense do their thing. We'll play the game of field position. We'll get the run game going. We'll pass when we need to. We'll do it efficiently. We'll keep the completion percentage up. I mean, you won't see Mac Jones on a SportsCenter top 10 play, but at the end of the season, you're going to be like, whoa, this Patriots team won 13 games this year, 14 games this year? Why? Here's why. They actually, realistically, they lost week 1 to Miami by a point. They lost week 4 to Tampa by 2 points. In Dallas, somewhere in the middle on October 17th, what is that, week 8, 6, 5? They lost 29-35. That's a touchdown.
Yeah.
They dominated the Jets. They almost dropped a 60 bomb. They beat the Chargers, which the Chargers were hot at that time. They beat Carolina. They put up 24 points on Carolina. They put up 45 on Cleveland. They only gave up 7. There's a big discussion right now, and that is, who is the scariest team right now that you don't want to face in the playoffs? And New England keeps popping up in that discussion. The Chiefs are beatable. Baltimore's beatable. Pretty much anybody in the AFC North. Tennessee looks pretty good, but I would say they're beatable. Maybe. I'm looking at Buffalo. I'm looking at the Patriots. I'm going to throw Tennessee up there. And the Chiefs only because at some point, Pat Mahomes could literally just throw for 600 yards in a game. Now, I don't know if maybe this year just isn't it, but it's so hard to bet against Pat Mahomes. But those are the teams I'm looking at, hands down. Baltimore's good too, but I don't know. Something about Baltimore having the worst pass defense just doesn't sit well with me.
No, and their offense, it's kind of struggled this year, and they
I like
need some wide
Lamar.
receiver. They need some
I
wide
love
receiver help at some point.
it's funny because yeah, I completely agree. They do have some talent there, but it's just not. We'll see how he ends up doing the rest of the season, but I'm starting to like Rashad Bateman, the number 2 receiver over there. He's young, he's good, he's fast. He complements Hollywood Brown pretty well. We'll see what he does. We'll see what he does moving forward, but yeah, those are my teams in the AFC right now, but New England's definitely one to watch out for.
They're going to be a surprise team. I don't expect them to be Super Bowl contention, but who knows? Maybe Bill Belichick is another dynasty brewing that's kind of under the radar at the moment.
Very possible. So there's some good matchups coming up this week. Some solid matchups you got to be on the lookout for. One I'm looking at, is the 3:25 game on Sunday, Cardinals Seahawks. Huge game, divisional game. Seahawks, it's like a must-win for them. They're 3-6. I don't see the Cardinals losing too many games. I don't see the Rams losing too many games. That is a huge divisional game right there. Same time, Cowboys and Chiefs are going at it. The over-under, take a guess on the over-under on that one.
62.
That was close. 60, I don't generally see with two high-scoring games more than 60. I've seen it close. I think I've seen like 58 and a half.
Yeah.
This one is 55 and a half, so 56 points for the over. I think this is going to be an over type situation. I actually think Dallas, this is the game where they get exposed. I think personally, even though they've been really good and Pat Mahomes has been really bad, I think this is the game. And if Pat Mahomes doesn't have a breakthrough game against this pass defense, the Cowboys force turnovers, but they can give up the yards. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I'm definitely going to be watching that game. We do have the Bears-Ravens at noon, which I think that could be a good game. The Bears defense has done the right things all season. They've had some bad moments.
Maybe Justin Fields passes well against that poor defense.
Justin Fields was trending in Yahoo Fantasy for transaction trends at one point this week. So some people believe he might even if he passes for 250 and rushes for 40, he just needs to score some touchdowns. That's going to be the key factor there.
I was just excited to see the Bears not take a loss this past week just because they didn't play. We didn't even talk about the Lions not winning or losing this past week.
Yeah, they had a tie with Pittsburgh. What a weird
Rudolph
season for Detroit. Yeah. He hasn't been the same since he took the helmet to the head. The Steelers are not that good. The Steelers are good. Let me put it that way. They could compete. But realistically, the Bears should have beat the Steelers. Horrible calls at the end of the game. You can't really use that as an excuse. But the Lions have yet to win a game. Should get a good draft pick, though. Packers have the Vikings. In Minnesota, Packers have the 2.5-point spread. I would take that spread. There's no point in taking the money line. Field goal game. Patriots, Falcons, Colts, Bills. Should be a good game. Colts have been running the ball extremely well. Jonathan Taylor might be the best back in the league, arguably. Not really many other key matchups there, but those are some of the key matchups. And I think that's going to wrap up the NFL.
And the podcast in general.
And the podcast is, follow us. SR Only Pod. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Woo, Big Trust. Make sure you're following us. I'm at Goose4Os. We have Healy,
I am
the Healy
at
6.
the Healy 6. I hope to see you guys listening next week as well for episode 100.
Let's go.